hire. I'll find time. I'll get you. I'll get you.
Let me know when you're ready and we can start. Are we good? Okay, all right, everyone. I know we had a very quick break. I know we're still chatting on I believe
Oh. Yes. Do you have something you want to say to me?
I love you.
I love you.
I love Sarah Carson. Let that the record show. Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the proposal panel. So yay! First things first. How many of you are freshmen? So none of you know what proposals are. Yay! Okay, so first and foremost, I'm gonna just introduce to y'all what proposals are. How we do shows in H-Tech is that one person, if they're eligible, aka if they've done 2 shows, one of which is being a production staff member, can talk to me as vice president and be like, hey, can you check if the rights for these shows are available? So let's say Heather's. Is Heather's available? I go on Concord, I look it up, and we wait for the license to show up. If the license is available, yay! We can do the show. What that means after that, we have the show being reviewed by the board. If they, if it's good enough to go to the general public, and after that, the general public gets to hear the proposal, aka what the show is gonna look like, what it is, what the staffs are, and then see a mini performance. So like not 15 minutes, like maybe 5 minutes of a performance, give or take, but we'll talk about the details later. And just overall, it's a really fun experience. It can get a little bit stressful, but don't hear it from me because I never went fully through with it. Hear it from our wonderful panel members. If we can have them introduce themselves. I'm gonna start this way, not you, I'm gonna start this way.
All right, I'm CJ. I'm directing Sweeney Todd, which was proposed at the end of last semester.
Yes.
I'm Elise. I proposed Spring Awakening as the choreographer.
Hi, my name's Nick. I proposed Carrie the Musical, directed Spring Awakening, and co-proposed Heather's with Breesley.
I'm Lola. We don't need to introduce me.
I'm Sarah. I've never proposed the show, but I've PM'd 2 shows, and I'm also the ex-treasurer.
I'm Gianna. I am the tech coord, so that is my big position for the proposal process.
We'll explain why they're here on the panel, but I wish Kaylee can join us, but she hasn't went through it yet, but it's okay. So we got an ex-board member in our last semester on the board.
Okay, all right, girl.
Sorry, gotta be emotional. So let's just start first thing first. We have staffs, right? Like we come in with a team. How do we establish this team, right? Does anyone want to start?
I'll start.
Yes.
So you can always, when you're proposing, you can choose any of an R staff role to propose as. So you can do director, you can do music director, you can do choreographer, you can even do PM. But I chose choreographer because I love to dance mostly. And Nick and I had just been on the same R staff because we did Carrie on Spring 2024. He proposed it and directed it, and he asked me to choreograph it, and I was like, of course I will. And so since we were coming off that semester, I was like, I think I'm going to propose Spring Awakening. And I was so excited with what he did with Carrie. I was like, would you like to be my director again? So usually I would say go for people that you either know have directed in the past, or you can either do people that seem to be really excited or want the opportunity to direct. And then the same thing was for our music director. Our music director was Sarah Hughes, and she also music directed Carrie, and she was also amazing in that, and she was always amazing in every production she did, so I was like, we need to have her. So, yeah.
Any advice on how to ask for production staff members?
A production staff member?
Also.
I would say I always went off based off of people that had been previously done it, and people whose work I had seen, whether it was costumes, whether it was publicity, and then also just reaching out to the general membership, reaching out to one of us and being like, hey, would you mind helping me gather some staff, putting it in any of our minutes, and we're more than welcome to help you guys.
Awesome. And would you say, what's the appropriate way to go about it? Would you say just finding them in the middle of the class times and be like, do you want to be my lead props?
I mean, you can always talk to people in person, but the most preferred method is always email.
It's just the most professional way. Additionally, just kind of bouncing off that, as the vice president, I'm the one coordinating all the proposals. No one in the company knows what someone is proposing except me, technically. So let's say all of you want to be part of a production staff one day, but you don't know obviously what the proposals are. And if you weren't asked yet, you can reach out to me and be like, hey Lola, I want do this. I want to be assistant choreographer. I want to, whatever, publicity. You let me know, and I reach out to the proposers, how many there are, and they can determine from there on what would work best. Does that kind of all make sense? Anything to add from your end? No?
Elise hit everything. Like, just be respectful. Email time appropriately. So like, don't send emails at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Don't email day of proposals being like, please, please, please. Keep it respectful. That sort of thing.
Also, I would say the email is pretty important too, because you have it written, like you have it like documented down, rather than like if it's by word of mouth, people might forget, and then they'll be like, oh, I was actually doing that.
Yes, that's true. Yes, Emma?
So is there, I know you guys are gonna get into stuff like asking cast and stuff. Is there a preferred timeline for when you would ask staff? Would you ask our staff first? Could you just do it as soon as possible? Or is there like, do you give people a little time to figure out what their next semester is gonna look like? What, do you just ask as soon as possible?
I think you could definitely ask for our staff and P staff at the same time. I would definitely put the bigger priority on our staff because it's much more of a commitment than the P staff is, and there's usually is more of like a population of people that would rather be on a P staff, so it's a little bit something that's a little bit like easier to put together.
Absolutely.
But then usually I would give somebody like timeline and be like, hey, get back to me by this date, whether it's like usually maybe around like 2 weeks to think about it, and that's if you start early.
Awesome, thank you so much.
And one thing, production manager, going about choosing that, if you want to start.
I would love to start with that. So when you're picking your production manager, I would argue that's one of the most important roles to fill if you are proposing as the director or even as the choreographer or whoever. Like, you want someone with a stable head on their shoulders who can handle like the production. One quote that we used last semester that I think still applies is like, the proposer is the heart of the production, the PM is the brain. So like, where all this emotion is coming from of like the creative vision and like all these wonderful things that directors, choreographers, music directors bring, the production manager is like the stable head on the shoulders that allows for these things to happen. So you need someone who can communicate well, you need someone who can send things out in a timely manner. Like, the production manager does it all, and it's such, not to scare anyone, it's a behemoth of a role, it really is, but it's so vital, and I can't really speak because I've never production managed, but I would say it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. in its own special way. It's fun.
I mean, well, Kaylee, how's PMing going right now?
That's good.
It's good? I mean, like, I would say, like, I disagree with me if you want. Would you say that the production manager should be the priority of choosing, like, in timeline? If there is a timeline, yes.
Yeah, I would say, like, the 2 times that I've proposed, we had I almost said a proposer. We had a production manager picked out that said yes before we started asking anyone else. That's just...
It just worked out.
It just worked like that.
Sometimes though, just letting you know, we do, when the board looks over your proposal, we also do vote on the production manager, which is why we emphasize its importance, because we can say no to the production manager if we feel they are not like ready enough for the position yet. Does that kind of make sense to everyone? Any questions?
To add to that, Lola, so since we do like a board proposal before like it's proposed in front of the whole group, you need to have a production manager by the time you're proposing to the board, because if you do not have a production manager, we can't let the proposal go any further than board proposals. But if you say you did have a production manager, but we voted no to the production manager, we could give you a conditional yes, so it gives you some extra time to find a production manager if everything else was already set in stone and you were good to go.
Yeah, so again, think of your production manager as like the director of the foundation of the show almost. Second part. We talked about the presentation, right, briefly about. The presentation is 15 minutes max. One part of it has to be a speech, the other part has to be a performance. For the board proposals, that part is only the speech. However, if anyone wants to talk about the speech, what it is and why it's important.
Yes. So, hey, come back to me.
Like, okay, the speech, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Just like, what is it and why is it important?
So, Yeah. So the speech, obviously, it's like 5 to 7 minutes. You want at least a third or half your time to be the speech. It's basically just the why are we putting this show on. Usually it starts with the introduction, like name, major, blah blah blah. What you've done in H-Tech before. Then it moves into like the story of the show you're putting on. There's no real set order. This is just what I'm going off of from the top of my head. You can order it however you want. The big thing is it starts with your introduction and it ends with like, why are we doing this show? And I feel like that's not the most important part, but it's a very big one because it's explaining why you, as the proposer, want to put this production on. Instead of saying, I'm putting on Heather's because I like croquet, la-di-da-di-da. Like, I mean, you can say that,
That
but...
wasn't the reason?
But like something a little more heartfelt that just kind of connects with the people that you're sharing this with, because it's a very personal thing, at least for me. Like, you're putting your heart and soul into something and now you're presenting it to your peers so that it can become a real like concept rather than just a like proposal that you've given to the board and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like I kind of divulged from the question.
No, that's perfect. Anything to comment on that or add to it? Yes.
You also kind of like introduce your R staff and P staff. So like the R staff is the main focus, like I'm the director of blah 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 blah, Carrie, and this is our choreographer Elise, and we're so excited to have her back in this role because she's done such an amazing job. Like basically, like you kind of hype your staff up. That's another important part. The P staff, you don't have to go into the same level of detail. It's mainly the R staff, but you can still highlight like the excellent people that you have on your P staff.
Amazing. Now, with the performance, because you have that 15-minute max, would you guys have any recommendations on finding the balance between the presentation and the performance? What should you even include in the performance? Anything to add?
I think you definitely want to have a little bit of variety from the songs of your shows. Like for example, like when we proposed Spring Awakening, we did the Bitch of Living. No, that's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. No, we did Mama Who Bore Me Reprise. That was the first one, and then we did Touch Me, and then we did Totally Fucked. And so the difference between that is, we started off with like the banger of all bangers, which was Mama Who Bore Me Reprise, getting like the crowd hyped up. And then we did Touch Me, which is a little bit more of like a slow song, a little bit more of an emotional song. And then we went out with Totally Fucked because I was like, that's like a great way to leaves a good impression in everybody's mind. So you definitely want to show off the different accents of the show. And also like a lot of people usually want to hear songs that they know from the show. Be like, oh, like this is what we're proposing. I want to do that. So give it a little bit of a tease of everything that the show has to offer.
Would you say that like you still prioritize mostly the presentation part then, the speech part then to save like a few, like 5 minutes for the...
Yes, I think we did, I believe the performance was like a little bit more than 5 minutes. It wasn't, you want to make sure you have more than enough time for the speech. I would give more for speech than performance.
And just for like reference, because we did this panel last year, we said in general like it should be around a 6 to 7 minute presentation. Emphasis also in case the show has a lot of specific content that might be controversial or people may have questions to it. Which kind of does lead into my next part. If a show does have such content, for example like Carrie, Heather's, Cabaret, how do you go about it, addressing it?
Like for Sweeney Todd, we were very honest of like being upfront, like here's a list of everything that happens and when and who does it. So if anyone were interested in so that they can get in their mind ahead of time of like, if I for example, if I want to be this character, oh, so they do that, okay, I want to keep that in mind.
Yes. Anything you two?
Yeah, as well. Specifically for staff, so Spring Awakening, for those who don't know, like there's a sex scene that occurs in the show, and so that was obviously a scene that we wanted to handle with care to make sure that everybody felt comfortable, like staff and cast-wise. So we went into it knowing that we needed somebody, this like whether an intimacy consultant or an intimacy coordinator, and so that was one thing for sure that we knew we were going to have, and we made that clear that like that was something we were going to have, or else we wouldn't go through with the show. So we started off, we proposed, we had she was an H-Tech alum, her name is Lucy Babala, and then she was our consultant because she couldn't be here in person. But then when it came closer to the show, when we had started our process, we were like, we need a coordinator in person. And so that's when we had our lovely Leilani who did all of the blocking for those different scenes.
Thank you, Tara. I will say this, the one thing from Cabaret, so if you don't know the context, it does happen in 1930s Germany, so during the Nazi regime. Basically, I remember at least from the Cabaret's proposal, McKenna handled every single thing up front. The best types of proposals I've seen in my days, and I think we can all agree, are when the proposers are honest right away about the content, where you don't even need to bring up the question. You know? Does that kind of make sense? It's just like already in the speech. So I was like, that's a big recommendation, and especially because as a board, that's what we have to think about. Like, is this right for the company? Can we accomplish this? Any questions about that? Any questions about the presentation or the speech, the performances? We like to, I'm excited about the performances. Yeah, wait, you had a question?
I don't know if this is what you're gonna say next though.
About the proposal cast?
Yeah.
Yes.
When, yeah.
So that's actually, how do you pick your proposal cast and when? Any?
I mean, it really just depends on the semester. The typical timeline, like, this is just like a normal, it's not the early one, but like once show 1 concludes, that's like a pretty prime time to start getting the ball rolling. Once you have, at that point you should probably like at least have asked your core R staff, like some of the P staff positions that are harder to fill, like tech directing, carpentry, like once you've shifted from like your lead P staff, R staff positions, that's a great time to start building your proposal cast. Yeah.
And one of the biggest things is make sure that you know you have the rights to the show before you start asking everybody, because if you don't get those rights back, then you're the one that has to go through the process and be like, hey, like, didn't get the rights back, I'll let you know. And if you wanted to like ask Lola if you could propose for something else, but rights are very, very tricky thing to get back. Like, I know that Spring Awakening, since that wasn't something that was being done that often, the time that we did it, the rights came back like almost immediately. Things like, even like when we did like Chicago, like those rights took a very, very long time to get back, and they were like a painstaking process to get back.
Yeah, that's like just in general, like something is like, that's why at least I start the process really early by having that deadline, have like, please ask me for the rights so I can apply for them as soon as possible. My first semester, finding the rights for you was actually really easy. It took, I think, the most a week to get here back. It was more the process of going through it once it was decided. But other than that, was really easy, but every show's different, but you know, that's a different story. Beyond that, can you confirm or deny you getting in the proposal cast? Does that signify you will be a cast member when the show's actually done?
No.
Is it a bias in any way?
No.
Elaborate.
Basically, the proposal cast is really just a way to showcase what you want the company to see of your show. You can pick whoever you want. It doesn't matter if they don't have a musical bone in their body or they can't dance. You're just picking things. You're picking people that you want to showcase your show. That being said, maybe like pick someone, like if you're picking someone for a lead role, maybe make sure that like they could dance, they're free, they can hit the notes for this one song that you're trying to show in your proposal. But again, that's more of like a play, like you have to use your judgment.
Yes.
And yeah.
Oftentimes, especially in the spring, it's usually seniors.
Mm-hmm.
Like mostly in the spring, it's usually the graduating seniors, just so they can have one last hurrah. Like I remember our friend Katie Brennan, she was in the Heather's proposal cast. I miss her, but she never did cast, and she was still there, and it was really great. During the fall, it's here or there sometimes. Again, so it's oftentimes people who are also in the cast of the shows, just because we've also heard them sing, I feel like.
Yeah.
But it's not political. Me wearing my Capitol Hill sweatshirt, it's not political. That's the best way to put it. But yeah, any questions about that? Anyone? Yes.
Can you be on the R side of one show or one proposal and then be in a proposal cast for another?
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
I was in the proposal cast for Chicago, and I was on the proposed R staff for Cabaret.
That's a good
And
question.
you can be in both proposal casts too.
Any other questions? No? All right. Yes, I could do this. To Sarah, what advice would you give as a previous treasurer?
Meeting with the treasurer is not optional. You have to do it, and you have to get your budget approved by the treasurer before your board proposal. It has to be approved before your board proposal, and then it'll be reapproved before real proposals, and then it'll be reapproved again after proposals are done and we know what the shows are for next semester. If you have no idea what you want to do, Kaylee has access to every single budget that we've ever had in the past 15 years. She has all of them, so if you want to look at them, be mindful of inflation. It's really bad, but that's okay. And also just looking at the budgets from this semester, from last semester, getting a gauge of Heather's had this much money for a set, but the set was just a wall in the back of the room. Maybe I want more for Pearson, which is a huge stage.
And Pearson also has
and
that
Pearson
extra.
also has an extra fee, but we don't have to talk about that right now. But you need to know what you want going into that meeting. You don't have to know what that looks like money-wise, but you have to be able to be well, my set is kind of big, or there's a lot of props in this show. They might be kind of expensive. There was one time we were thinking about proposing a show that needed a horse. And I was well, that's gonna be a little expensive. So we had to talk about how much that might be. And you need to know what you want. You need to know what you want in a show before you walk into a budget meeting if you don't know what your budget is gonna look like. So yeah.
Awesome. Kind of going into that aspect, Gianna, do you have any advice as tech court?
Yes, meeting with the tech court is also not optional. You have to meet with me to get your set approved for your show. I'm gonna go off these notes from last time because they're actually awesome. Great to have a backup idea. In case you meet with me and I'm whoa, that's so not possible, definitely come with some backup plans, some backup ideas. So we're not sitting there awkwardly staring at each other. If you have complicated designs, do your own research beforehand so you're not just throwing your tech teams with no help for something that's almost fairly impossible. A good example of this is when CJ and McKenna met with me. They originally had the idea to do the full-on chair and to slide for Sweeney. And so CJ came with the blueprints for that chair. So that was awesome because that made me more likely to approve of their set design because they were providing a good base for their tech teams, which is helpful because everyone's got their own stuff going on. What else? Yeah, perfect. Okay, yeah, I think that's
Also, I would recommend meeting with the tech board before you meet with treasurer, because then if you don't know what your set's gonna look like, then you can meet with the tech board and be oh, this is what my set's gonna look like now, and I can be oh, this is how much that might cost. Or we'll be that's how much that might cost.
Yeah. My one question to you two: when is an appropriate time to meet you two?
Well, office hours are always a good time.
Office hours is always a good time, and before the board proposals,
Before.
not the day of, not the week of, maybe at least 2 weeks.
I would say a week or two before board proposals.
Yes.
completely.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes. And is there any more? Because it's kind of a general overall question.
Yeah. I mean, you can just ask.
Okay, perfect. It's for the proposers. So obviously, a lot of us in this room know HVAC is a well-oiled machine. There's a lot going on. So if this is kind of a heavy question, you can kind of bend the answer. But I guess, what was the biggest disappointment or thing you weren't prepared for going into the proposal process? What was something you weren't prepared for that kind of took you aback and might have gotten in your way that you wish you'd known about beforehand?
So, yeah, my first time proposing Carrie, I had only been on one P staff and I never went to any P staff meetings. So I had no idea how they worked. So I was kind of thrown for a loop of I didn't really understand what the director position meant and how involved it was. That being said, I tried my absolute best to not leave teams flopping around. You can ask those teams if I did a good job. I don't know if I did or didn't. But I know that I learned to be, at least for when Spring Awakening came around, I knew, granted, that was more of the director status rather than the proposer. So maybe I'll just talk about Carrie. Like, or not Carrie. Oh my God, Heather's. So, like when Heather's rolled around, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I knew what meetings I had to have with what teams, when, in an appropriate manner before the semester started. I knew what to expect going into the semester, and yeah, yeah.
Anything else to add?
Yeah, I'll add. So proposing as the choreographer, I guess the biggest thing that I wasn't prepared for was learning how to balance like what I wanted for the show, but then also like what I wanted from Nick for the show, because like he was a director, like I wanted him to like be able to have his say, and in that sense like I was unprepared because as far as like communication with like P staff, like I was at fault for a lot of it because I didn't realize like how much like even like me not being there for one meeting could like affect like a team and how they're moving along with the process. And so I think a big thing is like making sure that you're always there and that you're always keeping up with your teams, and that's something that I had to learn throughout that process.
Anything to add?
Yeah, I just think that, so I was like assistant publicity, which is like, compared to like an artistic director, just completely different thing. So like, I'm right now at a point where it's like, okay, I'm realizing how much I have to do, but like, I'm understanding that it makes sense that I'm taking on this workload.
Absolutely.
So actually that's a really good question. So this is something new that we added as of last semester, is one of the eligibilities that you have to be part of a production or rehearsal staff, aka you have to go to like the P staff meetings, you need to do some sort of tech week or something like where you're asked to do technical stuff. And that is because I think when you don't have that experience, it kind of throws you for a loop. So I feel like Nick, you both actually really talked about that. If there's anything else you want to elaborate further.
I mean, it's just a learning process for everyone, because I didn't have any directing experience going into Carrie. Like, I just kind of threw myself in and it was like, okay, no one else is proposing for this block, so YOLO, but yeah. Like, it's a learning curve.
It's a learning curve, yeah. But it's just like, that's why it's also important to like have as much dimensional like understanding, because like in the past we've had people who were really good with casts, didn't do so great with production staff. Like I feel like it's the production staff. HTech is a well-oiled machine. So yeah. Any questions about that? Anyone not know what a production staff or rehearsal staff is? Okay, perfect. Awesome. All right. Well, we actually handled a lot of questions from just that conversation, but let's go into something positive. What was your favorite part about proposing?
My favorite part, yes. My favorite part about proposing was just like seeing everything that like I was envisioning like come to life. Like when I saw like when everybody was proposing at like our final proposal in front of like the whole company, like seeing everybody we had in our proposal cast just like shine with the music, and even when we got to like the actual like production of the show and just going to that first music rehearsal, like I remember me and Nick were at The Dark I Know Well, if you know Spring Awakening. That was our first rehearsal, and it was just like beautiful, like seeing everything come together, and it's like everything that we've done up until this point was like 100% worth it, like because we both like sobbed at that rehearsal.
Oh, yeah.
We were just so proud of like
yeah.
our cast, our staff, everybody.
Whoever wants to go. Favorite part of proposing?
I mean, I'm gonna piggyback off of that, just seeing it go from a singular email to a production manager to closing night, and I wasn't the proposer for Spring Awakening, but I'm using Spring Awakening as the example. Getting the email from Elise of the official email instead of when you asked me in Bacchus during Carrie Tech Week if I would direct your show, but getting that official email to watching the Song of Purple Summer, lights, sound, costumes, hair, makeup, props, everything, this fantastic cast telling this powerful story, seeing it just unfold in front of everyone, like months of work that you've put into something, and now it's on display, and then it just ends with such a bang. Why am I getting emotional? That's so weird. Like, that is what makes proposing worth it. And everything and anything between that initial email, getting your proposal cast, all the summer or winter meetings, depending on when you're proposing, your rehearsal process, casting the show, everything is just so magical. And I know myself, I will forever take the 3 shows that I directed with me throughout the rest of my life because they were the greatest things I could have ever done.
That's so emotional. That's sweet.
Don't talk to me.
When me and McKenna built our cast, we did it intentionally in a way of like, we want to get people who may have never had a chance to perform on stage with H-Tech with and then like a few veterans that here and there, but it was just really nice to see newer, fresher faces who never got their chance on an H-Tech stage being able to propose, like being able to be in this prospective cast of Sweeney Todd, you know, like it was sweet.
Aww. This is great, guys. This makes me happy. Great. Do we have any questions in general from the audience? Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm asking so many questions.
This is good.
Ask away,
This is the
Diva.
point.
My final question is, I suppose Lola or Sarah I think would be very good at answering this too, or proposers, either one. Say you're looking for positions like PM, tech director, the big positions, and the people who have done it before say no. What qualities do you look for in someone? How have you previously gone about, and what, like, is there anything that, like, you shouldn't just say, okay, this person's going to do it, done? What, I guess, how do you find new people who haven't done things before to do them when people who have done it before say no?
I have been asked for, who do you think would be good at this for like stage managing, like production managing, just like straight up asking like who you're asking
Who's
that
done it
said no,
before?
like, do you have someone in mind that would be like good at this? Because I guarantee you they don't know. Because I think about that all the time. Like when I was like, I'm never PMing a show again. Like 2 semesters in a row was too many semesters in a row. Like not again. Who would be good at PMing that I can recommend when somebody like tries to be like, say, will you PM my show? And I'm like, no, I won't. But yeah, just straight up asking them like, do you have anyone that you think would be good at this role? Like, would you mind thinking about it for me?
Absolutely.
I think one thing that worked, at least for Heather's favor, or in Heather's favor, was when we proposed, we didn't have a lead scenic designer. So one thing that you can do, which maybe not, like, don't bank on it, but you can bank on getting new people, especially like when we have new waves of people coming in from into the fall semester. Like now we have co-lead scenic. I'm not even sure, like our scenic team has blown up, like in a good way. Like we just have so many people that are interested in it. So that's one thing to look for. But also, like what Sarah said, like most people that have done the position have recommendations for who could fill those roles.
That absolutely makes sense.
Maybe to add, I mean, I agree with all of them. I don't think I really can add more than what they said. Awesome. Any other questions? All right. So I guess really my last question is, and I also have McKenna's responses to it. What's an advice you give to future proposers?
I think a great piece of advice is go into everything with positivity. I think the way you hold yourself in a rehearsal can truly change like how a staff or how a cast member wants to contribute. So like even like with like doing like choreo rehearsals going into our proposal process for Spring Awakening, I went in with it with like the excitement that I had for the show and the excitement that I would give during the show, because like this is like, I guess it's kind of like a common saying, but like energy truly is like infectious. Like if you go in there with the right energy, it'll be reciprocated back.
Yeah. I would say my biggest piece of advice beyond that, because I think she hit the nail on the head, is if you're doing any show, research, make sure you're as knowledgeable as you can be, so that if you are hit with heavy hitting questions, or like what, like how are you going to handle this, or how are you going to handle that when there's like dark topics in a show, that way you can have an answer to give on the fly. Not only does that like not only does that prove like you know the show, it proves that you're passionate about it enough to know what could work and what can't work.
Any advice?
Yeah. I just say it's a mix of the both of like, do your homework, and then the positive mindset, like they both combine together, just flexibility, because like there have been a few times where I'm just like, I'm workshopping things and I'm like, originally how I want to do it, I'm like, oh, okay, so we just can't do that at all. But I'm like, we're gonna find a better way to do it, and it's gonna be great. Like, you just gotta put one foot in front of the other.
Do you two have any advice for proposers?
Meet with the treasurer.
Meet with the tech board. Because if you don't, you actually
can't propose.
You cannot propose to
And
the
it will
board.
be denied at board proposals.
Yeah.
Speaking of which is my advice, treat the board proposals as the actual proposal. Because fun fact, the way you present yourself in that board proposal, we are going to examine you as if you were to tell it to a whole audience. So treat it as the real thing. Know your things by then. And then from McKenna who's probably somewhere, she's fine.
McKenna, who's up
somewhere.
watching us?
Don't be scared.
Not your roommate or anything.
Not my roommate or anything. Don't be scared to voice your opinions and visions as the show is your own. However, make sure you understand where other teams are coming from, and if things are unfeasible or unsafe, there's always a compromise that can be found. You just need to work together and find it. Something that I also agree with, adaptability. When you are a proposer, when you are a director, any type of leader in anywhere, whether in HTech, out in the world, you need to be adaptable because everyone's a human being. So that is a very big, important thing. This is supposed to be a fun and exciting process. Remember, your schoolwork comes first, and you should not be compromising your grades and mental health for a show. This sentiment should be shared with your cast and staff as well, and us as a board also will take that into consideration. No, the show Inside Out has been said by everyone, but don't be afraid to ask help from others in the company. The e-board and your staff are here to support you and want to see your show pass and perform to its fullest potential. If you have any questions or doubt, there are people there to help. We say this all the time. That's why we actually added a conditional yes, because sometimes people may just not be aware of something they needed for the board proposals. They're just a fault that can be fixed. Which is why don't wait till the board proposals to submit. Don't you know how you sometimes submit your homework and they'll correct it? Don't treat it like that. Come talk to us, go to our office hours, email us, text us, call us. We are there to help and answer any and all questions. And I will give you honest advice if you want it, So it's yeah. Any questions? All right, well, thank you guys so much once again. We appreciate all you've done. Thank you, you two. And yeah, thank you all for coming.
Remember, next week is mindfulness meetings. So go take a mind tour, relax, and your business.